water, my friend.
Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz pianist Christian Sands. We caught up with him on June 1st, 2020 about his brand new CD, Be Water, and this strange new COVID-19 world. This is his third full-length recording for Mack Avenue Music, and it captures and establishes him as a forceful leader in composition and conceptual vision. We cover a lot of ground about this new jazz world that we are living in and the music he's putting out there. Enjoy.
How you doing, Joe?
Hey, man. Good. How are you doing?
Good, very good.
Good. Hey, thanks for taking a minute out. I appreciate it.
Of course, of course.
Cool. Well, I want to talk about your latest album, but I also kind of want to talk a little bit about what's been going on with COVID-19 and how that's kind of, affected everybody in the jazz world.
Sure.
And so first and foremost, I always kind of ask the question here and there to musicians, like, how healthy is jazz? And I never have to ask that question again. The amount of shows that have been canceled by one musician is utterly staggering.
Yeah, it's rough out here,
man. So when did you start seeing that the tide happening? Like early March? What's your personal narrative of how you realized that we were going to get into this era that we're in right now?
Well, interestingly enough, I knew we were gonna end in a certain place. I know we were going to end up in a certain place. Probably in January. My younger brother was actually doing a residency in China, and he had heard something going on just in Shanghai and Wuhan back in November, And so it was, and as far as musicians go, we travel all the time, so we know how quickly things can spread because we're always exposed to just, sick people and germs and circulating air and all that whole concept. So I knew it would do something, but I didn't know that it would affect us as much as it has done with the closing of jazz clubs and the capacity caps and that I did not know that was going to happen. I wasn't prepared for that at all. However, the brighter side of it is now, well, sort of the brighter side of it is that now you have a boost of online activity of people being very creative and really using that creativity that they've used for the composing and the playing of their songs to now the exposing of their songs, the exposing of their art crafts, So we live in an interesting time now.
Well, and you have an album, Be Water, coming out during a pandemic, and I guess you've kind of answered the question I have. I mean, you're probably going to get more people that can listen to it because we have more time and there's a little bit more latitude, but you can't back it up live. What are your feelings? Any ambivalence going into this?
Well, I think it's another stepping stone. To me, I mean, it wasn't easy before and it isn't easy now. But to say it's harder now, I mean, I think that's a cop-out type of answer. I think, work is work no matter which way you look at it. So for me, it's just adjusting. It's just being flexible enough to figure out, okay, how do I release this album without personally giving it to somebody in their hand, and also at the same time, everything is kind of anyway, so it's not like these platforms have to be created once again, because we do have the streaming platforms, we do have social media, we do have Facebook, we do have our own personal websites. So, the possibility to now sell it is technically a little easier because now you have to just do it from your living room. But it's harder because you have to figure out how to do it. What's the best way to do it? So for me, it's a learning adjustment, but it's something that I'm prepared for, and preparing myself for,
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that challenge.
Well, the one thing that struck me too, talking to jazz musicians, and especially during this pandemic time, is that jazz isn't something that a lot of musicians get into for the money. And jazz, by the nature and virtue of it, is high improv. And what we're living through right now is clearly high improv, something we've never seen,
Yes.
something you have to adapt to. So it almost seems to, when I look at the arts, I think that jazz musicians have a really high capacity to be able to take all of this in and regurgitate it into an art form that's going to be pretty good when this is all said and done.
Oh, most definitely. I think that, especially given the amount of time that people have now you have time to really figure that out. And the thing about jazz musicians, specifically those musicians, not to take away from anybody else, but they're very intelligent, and they represent people, so, and they're constantly reading, studying, not only just the music books, but they're, in, dealing with politics, dealing with the current affairs, dealing with technology, there's so many different types of people, religion. There's so many different types of people that play this music and play it from those perspectives. So, there's motive here to not only create music, but also create platforms that can help benefit other people as well.
We're going to get back to the stage. It's obviously, there's no clear timetable, but it will happen. And my question is, when we do get back to the stage, what do you hope collectively the musicians and the audience realizes from this absence of live music that we've been going through?
Well, I hope they realize that the live music is very important. Communing together is very important. Being on the same page and speaking truth and understanding that we are all connected and we are needed for each other is very important. So I hope that once we get back on stage, that isn't taken for granted like it was before. But the people that were showing up to the concerts knew that. So yeah. It's really for the people that didn't show up that said, oh, well, I'll go see so-and-so next time. There might not be a next time. There's many, unfortunately, some of the older musicians that we had are gone now because of this, or just by timing, and it seems like everything is just at a loss, but now there's no excuse. When we get back on stage, you have to come see these older musicians. You have to, especially as a musician, because these are the people that have paved the way for you to play. So go see them, go commune with them, go talk to them, because you never know what's going to happen.
Finally, with your new album, what do you hope the listener gets from this experience? What is it that you're hoping they get from this particular project and Christian Sands album?
Well, a sense of freedom, self-freedom, a sense of ambition, a sense of peace with potential. I wrote this album, wasn't for anyone in particular, but it was really for me. It's for a reminder of myself to be like water, to be free, to be, when you're in certain situations, how do you react to them? And I think, and it wasn't planned, but it's definitely fitting for the time that we live in now with everything that's going on, from COVID-19 to the protests and riots. I think this is something that we all need to think about, of how do we progress, how do we go forward in a sane mind, in a sane body, and how do we get this done together?
Amen. Beautiful answer. Christian, it's always great to catch up. Thanks for talking about the new album and this very surreal world we're in right now.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Christian for his time, music, and stories. If If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes store. Visit Neon Jazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.